Around the Bears signing Alex Leatherwood. The biggest question here is this a good move? Let me know in the chat if you guys think this is a good move. Let me know in the comments below. Just drop a yes or a no. Give me some reasons why. Shout out to the chat as well. We got Andre Howard in the chat, Steve-O in the chat, Big Bear Dons, I am Skos in the chat, Big Bear Dons. What else? Don Burr in the chat. Don Burr, what's going on, man? I'm sure you're here for all the latest slander, man. Shout out to you for showing up as always. Twanny in the chat says, yo, what's good? Bear down, my dude. Shout out to you, my guy. So hey, let me know how you guys feel in the chat. Let me know. Here's my thing with it, right? When you're talking about a guy like Alex Leatherwood, terrible. For once, what Don Burr say? he said Alex Leatherwood more like patent leather. He's not wrong. This comment, at least at the moment, is not wrong. He was awful last season. Had 14 penalties. He had 8 sacks allowed. He looked completely outmatched the entire time. But the question that you do have to ask was, did Gruden and them boys put him in the wrong position? We all know Gruden is very bad at drafting. And when you look at what he brought to the table on with Alex Leatherwood, right? You look at a guy who essentially was a second or third round grade on most people's boards, and they took him in the first round, right? So I think you have to look at that and say, was he put in a bad position? Was he put in a position where he's going to fail no matter what, right? And you have to ask yourself, is there something that the Bears can do with Alex Leatherwood that you feel good about? Now, here's the thing at the end of the day. At a minimum, right, you don't feel like Alex Leatherwood has to come in here and be a starter for your offensive line. I think that's the biggest thing that you have to look at the beginning of this, right? Like, if he had to come in here and he had to be a starter, we all feel completely different about this. We all look at this and say, oh, God, like, what are you doing? You're going to get Justin Fields killed. But in my opinion, right, you come into this thing now looking at it and saying, okay, maybe you're able to get a little bit of upside out of this guy. Maybe there is going to be a long shot feature to this with Alex Leatherwood, but he looked good in college. He looked like a guy who definitely had talent, but what was that talent going to breed on the field? And sometimes it just takes a different situation for that guy to take a step forward. And sometimes, honestly, it takes the guys around you looking better for you to look better. Now, I'm not saying that he looked like the guys around him were the ones at fault, right? I think it's pretty clear to say that he would spend a lot of time on his back. But I think the thing for me is, as a depth move, as a move of, hey, this might work out in the future, low risk, high reward kind of move. I like the Chicago Bears bringing in Alex Leatherwood, and I feel like he's a guy that could possibly have some upside. I mean, he's a 23-year-old tackle, and I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is he a tackle? Is he a guard? There's going to be a lot of things for the Chicago Bears to figure out here with Alex Leatherwood. It doesn't just end by you getting him in here and, yeah, you plug him in different positions. But your biggest question is there some potential in there that can be tapped into? Is there something he can live up to? Is there something that you can find that the Raiders couldn't find in him, which is why they let him go? Now, there's also the flip side of that, right? The flip side of that is the Bears were 7th on waivers, and you're looking at a guy who had to go through 6 other teams to finally get to you. That's something that is big. That's something that has to be said, right? Like, there's 6 other teams that looked at this guy and said, no, we don't need that. We don't want that. We don't need the headache. We don't want to deal with it, right? And that also plays a part into it. But I think at the end of the day, oh no, I knocked over my monster. I knocked over my energy drink. However will I live? I think at the end of the day, when you're looking at this, right, like I said, low risk, high reward. You feel good about the fact that if he comes in and he gives you something, great. He's only making, I believe, $5.9 million that the Bears have to pick up on a 3-year deal. The Bears do pick up the rest of his deal, but the Raiders have eaten most of the money on Alex Leatherwood. So I feel even better about that at the end of this, right? Because the Bears opened up money. They had about $18 million in cap space to work with, and now they don't even have to go all the way in in and pay this guy his full amount of money to be here. You're basically losing nothing on that. And here's the thing. If it pans out, if it works out for you, right, this is what you're left with on your offensive line. Tevin Jenkins, who's 24, Larry Borum, who's 23, Braxton Jones, who's 23, Alex Leatherwood, who's 23. You've still got Doug Kramer, who's on IR basically this season, and he's 24. You got Jatire Carter, who's 23, right? Like a lot of young pieces on this offensive line that you can also have grow. Keep knocking stuff over. This is why I need a desk, so that you can also have grow with this Bears team and with Justin Fields. And I think that's the only thing that you're looking at with this, right? Like if there's any upside to this guy, let's go get him. If there isn't any upside to this guy, we don't lose anything. We're not hurting anything. The only thing that I don't like about getting Leatherwood off of waivers is we have to pay him even more just than we would have if we just signed him flat out, right? If he missed waivers. But if he doesn't miss waivers, I'm not tripping on it. I'm fine with it. We got him in here. He's a part of this team now. I think that at the end of the day, you have to look at this as a good move just based on bringing depth in, right? Even right now, if you do have him just coming in spots, here's the thing that I want people to understand. I've spent today, the reason why I'm doing these videos later and later is because I'm trying to do some research on these guys. I spent a day going back and looking at Leatherwood's tape. He is terrible in pass pro. My God, he was god awful in pass pro. But in the run blocking game, here, listen to what I said here. In the run blocking game, again, another thing that the Bears are doing to build up the system that they're planning to run this season. In the run blocking game, Alex Leatherwood was a pretty good player. And so for me, I think that's the thing that you bring him in here now. You try to develop him in the pass pro. You hope that you're able to get him in here and he's able to develop his game in pass pro. But at a minimum, you have a guy that can come in and be a part of this run blocking offensive line that's going to be run blocking for most of the year and step in and be pretty good at that. Oh, by the way, he's only 23. So for me, I look at the Bears again going to find a guy who does what? What have I been saying this entire time? He fits the system. He fits what the Bears are trying to do. He fits what the Bears are trying to run this season. And that's the end of it. That's the bottom line for me. You can figure out what he's going to be on the other side of that, but at the end of the day, you want to see how he fits what the Bears can do this season, and I think that's the biggest thing that you're looking at. If he shows you nothing, you move on from him. Again, right? Talking about kind of where his contract is, and Ian Rappaport actually tweeted out earlier talking about the Bears inherit Alex Leatherwood's contract, which has 3 years left on it, $5.9 million left that is fully guaranteed. Plus, they have a right to the 5th-year option. Las Vegas has already paid 58.9% of it. So again, Vegas paying most of that money on that deal. You feel good about that coming in and bringing a guy like that in. You're going young on your offensive line, and that's really what you want to see from your team. We've seen these guys bring in the 40-year-old, legitimate 40-year-olds. We've seen these guys bring in the older guys. We've seen these guys try to work out some of these veterans, and you want to keep that. But in the long run of this team's success, you have to have 5 guys that are able to play together for a long period of time, and that long period of time is going to be over the lifespan of hopefully Justin Fields being your quarterback and you having those guys stand in front of him, man. Let me see what you guys are saying in some of the comments, man. I appreciate you guys for showing love. If you haven't done so, hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Black Rain saying, yo, Pat, my sister-in-law is a huge Bucks fan. They wanted him if he cleared waivers. Hey, listen, he probably would have wanted to go there. Hopefully he can be coached up. Travis T saying he can be coached up. I think that that's something to definitely look at. Baki in the chat. Baki always showing love, man. What's going on with you, Baki? Also, Pat, he fits what GM polls and assistant GM Cunningham look for in an offensive lineman. That's something to be said for, talked about as well, right? They're trying to find guys that fit their scheme. They're probably looking at guys that they felt what they would have wanted in their system and would have done treated very differently. I don't think that this turns into a situation, though, where, you know, it's all sunshine and rainbows on the other side. We picked up a lot of low risk, high reward guys. Some of them aren't going to pan out. The hope is, though, that one of them does pan out and you do get that high reward. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Bears are going to do with him. I do like that they're looking for certain things and they want to get those guys in there. But I don't know. Dave's just saying, give him 2 years. We're going to look back at this as a steal. I hope so, right? At a minimum, here's the thing that I'm looking for from him this season. Come out and show me the run blocking that you showed me over in Vegas. He was good in the run block, moved his feet well in the run block. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are the things that I'm looking at. Show me that you can do this specific job well. That's all I'm asking you to do this season. On the other side of that, if you develop into something, you develop into something. If you don't, again, looking at the money that Schefter was talking about there, they've already paid that fifth-year option 58.9% of it. Or the guaranteed money, I should say, 58.9% of it. So we're talking about getting this guy in here as a little bit of nothing. If he can just come out and be a dominant run block guy, I still might look at it as a steal in that situation, but I'm not pushing anything on him. And I'm excited about the get of him, man. If you guys are excited about getting him in the building and having him be a part of the Chicago Bears, man, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments below. Appreciate you guys for showing love, man. Let's talk about